too. So actually a good time. Good. Kind of going on. 222. The word two has been coming into my life a lot. And I figured out that two is related to the S, and then 222 is related to the three, and the three is related to the S, which is related to the sun. So I'm relating two and 222 to the sun. And something about the sun that's been covered up by the and connotations of the number two as it advances his numerological and psychotic power through what you call media. Dun dun dun. Next on this episode, we also find out what chronic masturbators do to get it up after years of virginity. Dun dun dun. And let's see, we should have three stories. One more. How sometimes I see dead people. Dun dun dun. I don't know, does that sound like a witchcraft channel? I accidentally looked up the word witch or something for some reason on YouTube. I was looking for something else entirely, and all these channels about witchcraft, and I literally never thought of checking on YouTube to see if there was any other witches out there. That's how solitary a witch I am. It just never occurred to me. I read Gardner's Neo-Paganism when I was in my 20s, and then drawing down the moon, and I got through that, and I got it. I really enjoyed the feeling, and I felt like I got the sense of the spirit of it, but I'm not quite sure that it really added up or would to what I do. But that's probably par for the course. And then there's, the fact that you really generally never cease to prefer reading a book of spells and reciting various wonderful songs and poems to, the Lord and Lady of Nature. For instance, that in itself is just such a gem of an experience that if I could have been surrounded by a cathedral at the same time and I was 3 years old sitting with my family, it would have been living like the most perfect fucking experience any human being could have. But alas, that was not the case. I was probably in my bedroom where I had walled off the door from my psychotic and abusive family so I could fast for 3 days and say my virgin prayers to my one friend, cat, in a small window, just like in a prison, out to a garden that got a lot of birds when the sun was rising. In 3 days, I'd piss into a bucket until this evil time had passed, and I came out, and I found a MasterCard with pre-approved $1,000 in my mailbox in a place I probably couldn't afford to pay the rent. Behold, nature had sent one of her first little special offerings to the young druid. And that's basically how I would like to see it. I didn't quite see it that way then, but I was very happy with my discovery. Got it going, and went to the Taco Time and bought a couple burritos or something and some french fries after not eating for 3 days, writing a small book out of songs of my own while holed up in one of the most terrifying things that any human being can ever go through, in domestic abuse, and won't go into now. And then taking back to my room, walling off my door. It's probably 26 at the time, and sitting on the floor by my bed in front of my mom's old dresser drawers that I inherited somewhere, and eating my food, relishing it, every morsel, and then just being like, okay, ready to start the next part of my life. What am I going to do next? I was kind of registered in college at the time. Never really graduated from college, but I did spend a number of years cashing student loans. And when I found that you could fail 3 semesters and still be granted money, I decided to just really let it all out. And that was my finish line. And once I'd finished with that, I went on to the next thing. School then became kind of like some sort of neutral healing place for me. Having lost much of my family, at that point, my childhood, a home, safety, and everything but my wits. After being, if you've ever felt like you've been passive aggressively pushed out of your environment, it just got increasingly violent for me and pushed me out into what we call the world. And I wasn't doing very well. Long ago. It didn't feel good. And it's not a story most people would like to hear. And I barely want to say it myself. and sound nice. People that put a positive spin on things are like, shit, I wouldn't want to be you. It just becomes your life. Even when the impossible happens, your own family crushes your body and leaves you and attacks you alone, isolated. Everything that psychopaths or groups of weak or diseased people will do to their prey. Socially isolate you and subject you to torture until you shut up, die, go away, or do what they want. Probably kind of all three of those things, in which is comprehended doing what is right and being the good person that they think they increasingly have the right to arbitrate for you that you need to be. And now you've gone far and beyond, even though it's hard to imagine what life is like for another person. What is it like in your world? And what is it like in my world? And what is this all about? That can be difficult. It's okay. We're supposed to be social and loving. It can be peculiar and difficult to think about how well we really do know another person's mind. And now it's made even more infinitely difficult when introduced and usually long introduced into your various key people in your life, or the only people in your life, is an increasing amount of aggression and neglect and bad treatment. 231. And your feelings are quite natural. You're not supposed to be anything other than still a very natural person. So if you're angry, there's a reason you're angry. And the only difference between you and the people hurting you is that they found a way to live life without feeling how angry they are. Stop them in their tracks too. And they couldn't afford to be stopped in their tracks. But you're stopped now, and you were stopped, and they stopped you some more. They sort of stopped the momentum of many different spheres of your existence that came to bear on your physical and emotional and mental well-being. So all of that momentum went into that bedroom and into me and into literally sitting with myself day after day, laying in the bed and breathing and getting through the day through creativity and writing something just personal to me. And thank goodness that I was someone who knew how to journal about, because after one or two middling attempts of writing a letter like, hey, I'm really hurt. This violence is unacceptable to me. This is extremely serious. I need you to stop hurting me. I need you to understand that some very serious fear has been put into me by you and how you've been behaving toward me, and things of that nature, which were scoffed off by my family and became evidence, as they call it, that I was schizophrenic, because they were heavy into the denial portion of this disease. And that makes me shiver as I think about it. Hoping my mom shows up. Sometimes she falls asleep during the day. She should be pulled up pretty soon. I hear a car. Please be mom. sitting here. Topics of discussion don't make me feel any better, but there it is. This one, I got this one guy's car once. I was hitchhiking on this small island relatively nearby. He turned and he said to me, you were like a prince or a king, naked in the darkness. I was like, what a strange thing for someone to say to you, right? But yeah, it was the one time in life when I met a lot of weird people. I didn't feel ill. He didn't mean any ill. Of course, strange New Age people always want to tell you things. But I thought it was alright. I sat in that room. I don't know how I got through it, except that I was genuinely afraid to leave it. I knew it. I needed things to cool down. I knew that things had come to the level it was, because just about anything that happening increasingly between me and these family members, and whatever I said to stop seemed to make them worse. Many years later, I've lived with alcoholic women, sometimes I say, and later on, years later, if they're sober, they'll say, oh yeah, I can't tell you, I don't know why, I was just feeling the way I was. They were really angry and really aggressive and all these awful things, but they can't really tell you. And just, they're kind of loosely aware that it probably was the alcohol. So it kind of allows you to fly off the handle, And, victims like myself can be poignantly sympathetic to the pressures and the agonies that humans suffer, that they might need to let off steam. I'm now wondering if my mom is going to show up at all. She seemed a little flighty when I last saw her today. It's at 2:30. We had a conversation. It's like, I'm not sure if I can always expect that that's going to really follow through for her. It was 2:22, so it's like 2:32 now, so it's not too far off. Just hold on for a second. Give her a chance. Just don't do this to me, Mom. She's done this to me before, where she just falls asleep, and I walk home, and I get home 3 or 4 hours later, and she's like waking up going, oh, you're home. And it's like, my God, like, this should never happen, right? This should never happen again, right? And I don't get mad at her. It's like, oh, I'm just glad you're safe, Mom, and I'm glad, you're at home at least, and you're safe. But I don't think my mom always goes the full length of contrition, like, to really make sure that it doesn't happen again. As an alcoholic, like, she can make terrible mistakes and then make them over and over again. Not because she doesn't care, but she just doesn't know how to take her mind to that place of shame where it's useful to feel a little ashamed that something happened, to scare yourself a little bit so that you change your mind. So that next time you go, oh, wait, we had a problem with this. Let's make sure. Like if you get someone's meal wrong in a restaurant and they're a famous critic, the next time you're like, wow, let's extra make sure we don't, burn their salmon this time. And so that you don't more than once. Check the time. I gotta get walking soon.